It is the eve of the 2022 NHL trade deadline, and we have some even more deals to talk about today. There was 3 total trades that went down yesterday, 2 of which were pretty massive deals that saw 2 of the bigger name players available taken off of the board. I'm really interested to see how this affects deadline day tomorrow, now with these players off of the board, and also, Ben Sherratt and Thomas Hertl's no longer getting traded because he signed an extension. Josh Manson already got traded. I feel like now there's a lot higher of a chance we see players get traded tomorrow, kind of out of nowhere, guys that we didn't expect to get moved. At least that's what I hope happens. I really hope we don't just get a dud of a trade deadline day tomorrow. But nonetheless, I'm really excited to break these 3 trades down for you guys. Let's start off with the smallest of the 3. There isn't really a whole lot to break down when it comes to this deal. The Minnesota Wild acquired forward Nic Deslauriers from the Anaheim Ducks in exchange for a 2023 third-round pick. And in my opinion, that's kind of a high price tag to pay for somebody like Nic Deslauriers. Definitely not the kind of player who I feel like is going to be a needle mover for the Minnesota Wild. He is a 4th line grinder, energy forward kind of player, hits a ton, obviously fights when he feels the need to. He's got 5 goals, 10 total points this season in 61 games. I think this is a great deal for the Anaheim Ducks getting a 3rd-round pick here. If someone came back from the future, last week and told me Nic Deslauriers is going to get traded next week, what do you think the return is going to be for Anaheim? I probably would have guessed like a 5th or a 6th-round pick, something along the lines of that. Definitely not a 3rd. So definitely a great deal for the Ducks. And for the Minnesota Wild, I'm sure Nic Deslauriers is going to be a good locker room presence for that team, bring some energy. I just feel like a 3rd-round pick was a little bit too high of a price to pay for a player like that. So those are my thoughts on the Nic Deslauriers trade to the Minnesota Wild. Again, not really a whole lot to unpack there. Now let's get into the bigger trades, starting off with the deal that sent defenseman Hampus Lindholm to the Boston Bruins from the Anaheim Ducks. The Bruins also got Cody Curran in the trade, a 32-year-old defenseman, American Hockey League guy, has never played an NHL game in his life, basically just another contract going to Boston. Also, the Anaheim Ducks are retaining 50% of Hampus Lindholm's cap hit for the remainder of the season, and then next season it'll be off their books because his new contract will kick in with the Boston Bruins. It's an 8-year deal with a $6.5 million AAV, so this isn't a rental for Boston. They locked Hampus Lindholm up long-term after acquiring him, and in return for Hampus Lindholm, the Ducks got a pretty significant package. They got Urho Vaakanainen, they took on the contract of John Moore as well. They get a 2022 first-round pick and second-round picks in both 2023 and in 2024. Obviously, the big pieces in this deal for the Ducks are the 2 second-round picks and the first-round pick. I feel like the jury is still kind of out on Urho Vaakanainen. He was a 18th overall pick by the Bruins in 2017. He's been up and down between the NHL and the American Hockey League since 2019. I'm sure with Josh Manson being gone and obviously now Hampus Lindholm being gone, Vaakanainen should get a pretty long look at the NHL level to close out the season for the Ducks. So hopefully Vaakanainen can become a good defenseman for the Ducks. Overall, I really like this return for Hampus Lindholm. I think the Ducks have done a really good job this trade deadline season selling off their assets that were set to become UFAs at the end of the season. They got a solid return for Josh Manson, fantastic return here for Hampus Lindholm, and like I just said when talking about the Deslauriers trade, I think they got a great return for him considering the kind of player that he is. The Ducks are really setting themselves up beautifully for the future. It might be a rough next couple of seasons, but in the end I feel like it's all going to be worth it because they're just loading up on future assets. Now let's shift focus and talk about this deal a little bit from the Boston Bruins side of things. I think Hampus Lindholm is a fantastic pickup for them. He has been a very steady and consistent top pairing 2-way defenseman basically for his entire career ever since the 2013-14 season when he came into the league. He plays tough minutes. He's capable of quarterbacking a power play. I imagine he probably slots in on the Bruins' second power play unit at this point, with McAvoy being the defenseman on the top unit. And let's just talk a little bit about their potential new top pairing at 5-on-5 now. If they play them together, which I expect them to, Hampus Lindholm and Charlie McAvoy may be one of the better D pairings in the entire league. Obviously, there's probably going to be a little bit of an adjustment period there, learning how to play together, and Hampus Lindholm, learning how to play in a new system, but that really sounds to me like it's going to be a fantastic pairing. And then obviously you still have Grzelcyk, Carlo, Mike Riley. I feel like Hampus Lindholm really rounds out the Boston Bruins decor well, and I really like the fact that they extended Hampus Lindholm after acquiring him, so they didn't just give up all these assets for a player that could potentially leave at the end of the season. All in all, I really think this is a great trade for both teams. The Atlantic Division is looking even scarier. They are loading up. Obviously, Boston getting Hampus Lindholm here. The Florida Panthers got Ben Sherratt. Brandon Hagel went to Tampa Bay. And the Panthers also got another pretty good player yesterday, which I guess we'll just shift focus to that trade now. The Florida Panthers have acquired Claude Giroux from the Philadelphia Flyers, along with Connor Bunnaman and German Rupsov, in exchange for Owen Tippett, who was the Panthers' first-round pick from 2017, a conditional 2024 first-round pick, and a 2020 2023 third-round pick. The condition on that first-round pick is if it falls in the top 10, the first-round pick will then just move to a 2025 first-rounder. And also, if I'm not mistaken, the Philadelphia Flyers retained 50% of Claude Giroux's cap hit for the remainder of the season just to make the money work in this deal. Before making this trade, I think you can make a very strong argument that the Florida Panthers had the deepest crop of forwards in the entire NHL, lines 1 through 4 when that team's healthy, and they just added Claude Giroux to that forward group. I mean, this team is scary. I feel like you can make a legitimate case at this point that they should be the favorites to win the Stanley Cup. I know that might be a little bit crazy to say considering this core has never even won a playoff round together, but Claude Giroux is just going to add so many elements to this team. He's obviously still a fantastic two-way forward. He's been to the Stanley Cup Finals before and lost. I'm sure that experience is going to help in the Florida Panthers dressing room. I feel like now you can kind of say they have two captains as well. Obviously, Barkov's going to be the guy wearing the C, but Claude Giroux, I'm sure, is going to have a big voice in the locker room, going to be a leader for this team. He's been the Philadelphia Flyers captain for as long as I can remember. It's going to be really weird to see Claude Giroux in another uniform. Obviously, up until this point, had spent his entire career with the Philadelphia Flyers, had just recently played in his 1000th game with the team. So although it's going to be a little bit weird, I am really excited to see Giroux play for the Panthers, and I'm excited to see him get a chance to compete for a Stanley Cup because that Philadelphia team really wasn't going anywheres. I absolutely love this addition for the Panthers, and like I said, that Atlantic division is just loading up. The Panthers got significantly better with the addition of Giroux, obviously Brendan Hagel in Tampa Bay, like I said, Lindholm in Boston. If I was a Leafs fan, not gonna lie, I'd be looking at this and being a little bit concerned, seeing as what Boston, Tampa, and Florida have been doing. I feel like the pressure is now on Kyle Dubas to do something to improve his team. It's going to be a really interesting next 24 hours. I guess now I'll shift focus and talk about this deal from the point of view of the Philadelphia Flyers. I'm sure a lot of Flyers fans are going to be emotional about this trade. Claude Giroux, like I said, spent his entire career there, has been the captain for such a long time, and just been such a great player for that team. And I definitely feel like the return for some may be a little underwhelming. You get the first round pick. It's not obviously till 2024 because the Panthers traded their 2023 and 2022 first round picks, but still, that first round pick is definitely, I feel like, the most valuable asset in this deal. Owen Tippett, I feel like the jury's still kind of out on him. I'm not 100% confident he's ever going to develop into, a good top 6 forward at the NHL level. He's put up such fantastic numbers in the American Hockey League over the past couple of seasons in his stints down there, but it just hasn't really translated well to the NHL level, despite the fact that when he's played in the NHL, he's gotten the opportunity to play with some real talented players. Hopefully in Philadelphia, a fresh start and a new opportunity, he can really make the most of it and become a consistent NHLer. I think the return is fine for the Philadelphia Flyers. I feel like ideally you probably would have wanted to get a more highly touted young player than Owen Tippett or just, a top level prospect, but I don't think it's an awful return. I just feel like to a lot of people it could definitely be looked at as a little underwhelming. And one other thing I'll actually mention from Florida's point of view, along with Claude Giroux, they get Connor Bunnaman, who's, kind of just a depth piece, but German Rubtsov was actually a first round pick by Philly in 2016. Ever since being drafted in 2016, hasn't really dominated at any level he's played at. I really don't think at this point he becomes a regular in the NHL, but just thought it was worth mentioning that he was a first round pick in 2016. So those are my thoughts on the Claude Giroux deal. Also, as I'm sitting here, the Florida Panthers just made another trade. Aaron Ekblad was moved to the long-term injured reserve. Apparently he's not going to be back until the first round of the playoffs. So the Panthers now have some newfound cap space, and they have acquired defenseman Robert Hagg from the Buffalo Sabres for, I think, a 5th round pick. The deals aren't confirmed just yet, but that's definitely pretty interesting. Florida adds some depth to their blue line, which definitely makes sense now that Aaron Ekblad is going to be out for the remainder of the regular season. Don't really have too much else to say about that trade. Obviously, the timing of Ekblad being out now, it makes sense to, add a little bit of depth to your blue line, and for the Sabres, makes sense to grab a draft pick for a player that is not going to be a part of your future. So that is going to wrap up today's video, going over all the trades that took place in the NHL over the past 24 hours. I'm sure there's a good chance maybe you'll be hearing from me again a little bit later today. I feel like the trades probably aren't done. And just as a heads up to give you guys an idea of my plan for tomorrow, I'll make videos on the massive trades that happen if there is any really big deals, but then at the end of the day I'll be doing a trade deadline review where I go over all the deals that happened, big or small. But definitely let me know down below in the comment section, what are your guys' thoughts on the deals we talked about in this video, especially if you're a fan of any of the teams involved. I'm really intrigued to hear your guys' thoughts. If you enjoyed today's video and you're excited for the trade deadline, be sure to leave it a like. That is the best way to show your support. And most importantly, if this was your first time checking out the channel and you want more NHL content just like this, be sure to hit that subscribe button, and I'll talk to you all soon.